Gi-hun is stupid, and that's why he ruined the frontman's week. Those are spoilers. In the past, I discussed some of the books on the frontman's desk. Some of them, not all of them. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna talk about the rest of the books on his desk so I can further reinforce the theories and whatever themes I'm gonna throw at your face. On the frontman's desk, somewhere in the chaos, you can spot a book by the French psychoanalyst and psychiatrist Jacques Lacan. I believe this book is vibrating over here because of Lacanian psychoanalysis, which explores the theory of desire. To quote him directly, desire is a relation of being to lack. This lack is the lack of being, properly speaking. It isn't the lack of this or that, but the lack of being whereby the being exists. Meaning, one's existence is dictated by this lack. This incompleteness pushes the individual to seek external fulfillment, causing them to create this other, thinking that if they obtain this other, they can achieve some sense of wholeness. Lacan's way of thinking is that this lack is perpetual and can't be satisfied. And we totes witnessed this in the blue players of season 2, as they keep wanting to continue to the next round, even though they just said that last round was gonna be their last. It was not. They're deluding themselves into thinking that they're going to be satisfied with the money they earn from the next game or their next whack crypto gamble. The next thing is their other, because when they obtain it, they keep pushing forward, as their newly obtained other won't make them whole. Back in season 1, Oilam said to Seong Gi-hun that him and his VIP friends, the ones that everyone loves, weren't finding any joy in life because they had too much money. The VIPs cycled through these others, and no matter what they bought, ate, or drank, everything got boring in the end. These cheese balls couldn't fill this emptiness and satisfy that desire, so they progressively indulged in more extreme options until they eventually arrived at like the worst idea ever. They invented the games to feel something because they had nothing to live for. Elam had this understanding that both people with no money and all the money shared the same issue. Living isn't fun. Both feel a void that can't be filled. That's why these rich did it, but the frontman stayed in the games because he saw an opportunity for something different. Lacan, the guy going off in the chat about desire, would go on to be an advocate for the surrealist movement. He would even go as far as becoming Pablo Picasso's own personal therapist, which is another reason we see a book by the surrealist painter Pablo Picasso sitting on the frontman's desk right here. In the frontman's eyes, the games are equality. In the games, every player gets to play the game under the same conditions. These games are a break from the rigged system on the outside that made players suffer from inequality or discrimination. He saw it as order in the chaos, the one last chance for a fair fight and a fair chance to win. Surrealism is something that inspired the imagery of Squid Game. You can see the rooms belonging to the VIPs, the back rooms, are caked in this kind of artwork. Or the stairs. Take the stairs, for example. Oh my demented robot girl. The stairs. There's this surrealist piece called Relativity by MC Escher. It's depicting people casually going about their day despite the laws of gravity having completely changed. Like, look at this guy's going this way and this other guy's going this way. It's a complete mess and I'm here for it. The composition of this disorienting and complex labyrinth of staircases is most likely what inspired the design of the staircases leading into the games. As here we see a bunch of people casually continuing on with their day even though something is off, as the laws of their reality have changed. I feel like this painting perfectly encapsulates Lacan's fascination with surrealism, as he viewed it as a different way of interpreting the human experience, by allowing the unconscious mind to express itself. French writer and poet André Breton would go on to view surrealism as a way to resolve the previously contradictory conditions of dream and reality into an absolute reality, a super reality. This is exactly what they've done with the games. Eleven has a picture of her daughter who she got separated from. The frontman has a picture of his deceased wife, and the salesman clearly has daddy issues. They were let down by their reality on the outside. So in here, the super reality makes sense to them. Oilam must fall into this group, even though he puts on the games for different reasons than the frontman and friends. His family was absent from his life. Think about it. He was in an empty hospital room with no visitors other than the frontman and this weird homeless guy. There weren't even any flowers indicating previous visitors that day or week. But then again, I don't know if people do that in Korea. I'm still learning the culture, people. When Elam and Gi-hun were playing that game that I still can't pronounce, Elam stumbles into his home from the past. He fondly reflects on coming home from work and seeing his son playing outside.
내가 퇴근하고 집에 오면은 아들놈이 친구들이랑 신나게 놀고 있었어. 아빠가 온 줄도 모르고 말이야. 정신.
It's unclear what exactly happened to his son. I don't think that the frontman is the son of Oilam, even though I'm coming up with this theory on the spot and I'm proposing it in the video. All I'm saying is that during season 2, Jin-ho's mom claims that the frontman was adopted.
내가 친엄마가 아니라서 내가 널 더 챙겼다고 원망할까 봐.
Which is an interesting thing to point out. And on top of this, back in season 1, Elam claims that his son doesn't drink milk. Or plain milk. Or whatever.
우리 아들이 꼭 자네 같았거든.
Then later in the series, in season 2, when the frontman's doing his thing, he gives the pregnant woman his milk, claiming that he doesn't drink plain milk.
아니 그냥 마셔요. 내가 원래 신우유를 못 마셔요.
Granted, 75% of Korea's population is lactose intolerant, but I don't know. Them drawing attention to this detail could be more of a cultural reference rather than a wink wink nudge nudge look at their father and son dynamic going on here. But I'm feeling a little unhinged today, so I'm not going to dismiss the theory that Elam is the frontman's papa. I'm going to dismiss it a little bit, but I'm not going all the way. I'm not going to completely dismiss it. And for a moment, just pretend like I said nothing about Elam and the frontman being a father-son duo. All these people, the people that I'm showing you right now, join the games or put on the games or are part of the games because of their lack of family and this all-encompassing void that consumes them. Over here on the frontman's desk, we're back here now, we got Claude Monet, an artist who contributed to the Impressionist movement. For those who forgot, the Impressionist movement was considered a little bit more anti-establishment as it went against the convention, which was tied to the more pretentious state-sponsored exhibitions of France. They were in the mood to favor incredibly detailed paintings of religious entities, historical figures, and a lot of self-portraits of these rich f***s, which is never fun. In fact, it's like the opposite of fun. It's not fun. So the Impressionists burst open the door and incorporated these very bold and loose brushstrokes, all helping give a strong emphasis on light. The Impressionist artwork strayed away from the grandeur and would hone in on more objective views like nature or contemporary settings, often choosing to depict middle-class living rather than the rich that I was just talking about. Hopefully I'm not butchering the pronunciation of this, but actor Lee Byung-hun, the actor who plays the frontman, described his character as having 3 different identities.
영일이라는 이제 이 캐릭터는 뭐 이름이 프론트맨, 인호, 영일 그런 만큼 굉장히 다중적인 면이 좀 있는 것 같아요.
The man he is, the man he's trying to be, and the man he was. The dark, the light, and the one in between. Which is why over here, this way, come closer, you can spot a book about Van Gogh. And on the back of it, you can see his 1988 painting, Cafe Terrace at Night. The Dutch post-impressionist painter that was Van Gogh had a growing fascination in the interaction between light and dark. Take this painting that I'm already talking about, for example. The Cafe Terrace is illuminated by this warm orange and yellow light. It's in stark contrast with the dark blue sky, the dark streets, the dark buildings, you know, most things surrounding it. This painting is widely believed to be inspired by Van Gogh's own struggle with his mental health. It's kind of like he views the cafe as a safe haven within the darkness that he would later succumb to, as Van Gogh later took himself out of the equation by using a revolver to the chest. A huge theme following the frontman is his struggle between light and dark, because at this point in the story, he's almost entirely consumed by that darkness, with just a little bit of his past self breaking through. Lee Byung-hun went on to say,
삶에 대한 집착이라는 것이 일단 이미 그에게는 없은 지 오래고 내가 당장 죽게 되더라도 그것이 커다란 변화가 아닐 수 있는 그런 인물이라고 생각을 해요.
Before passing, Van Gogh wrote to his siblings about the issues he was dealing with, both financially and health-wise, writing, "It's no small thing when altogether we feel the daily bread in danger. No small thing when for other causes than that we also feel our existence to be fragile. Once back here, I too feel very saddened and continue to feel the storm that threatens you also weighing upon me. What can be done? You see, I usually try to be quite good-humored, but my life too is attacked at the very root. My step also is faltering." Van Gogh remarked on the cafe painting that we were just talking about, saying a mere candle by itself gives us the richest yellows and oranges. In terms of the art that we see on the desk, we see the dark blue from Van Gogh's Impressionist paintings, and we also see the blue period from Pablo Picasso. Just a lot of blue, right? We know that the frontman appreciates music as he continuously plays Fly Me to the Moon during Red Light, Green Light, just every single year. So I'm assuming he has somewhat of a say over what music they're playing over the intercom. This makes me think that the frontman was the one to select select the Blue Danube, the song that plays over the speakers when the players are being sent into the next game. Like the Van Gogh painting, the frontman is metaphorically caked in blue. Everyone in Squid Game views that money as the warm candle in the night, as it gives off the richest yellows and oranges. But the frontman can't be bought anymore. Instead, he metaphorically views Gi-hun as the flame in the darkness. By the way, this is why the hallucination of his brother is caked in the same warm light, and why the mini jazz stage thing over here is primarily lit with the same kind of orange and yellows as they're performing the song Fly Me to the Moon, a song that's representing the frontman's yearning for this human connection and his lost romance. The frontman entered the games after he witnessed Gi-hun trying to save the people, sorry, I mean the trash, from whatever hellscape they're about to endure. The frontman's like, I'm gonna change your mind and spend more time, resources, and energy into convincing you than I did with my own brother. Semantics. The frontman is wanting to change Gi-hun more than some of you want to toxically change Thanos. You know how you think you can fix the guy who didn't just take the red pill or the blue pill, but all the pills.
Welcome back, my friends.
Which, by the way, how in the heck was Thanos not eliminated for using performance-enhancing drugs? Like that doesn't make the games equal. I'm getting sidetracked. In Lee Byung-hun's words,
심리가 아니었을까라는 생각이 들어요. 그렇지만 마음 저편의 한 구석에는 자기도 모르게 기훈을 또 응원하는 마음이 있지 않았을까라는 생각도 들어요.
just like how the salesman rudely puts on these games to convince himself that these people are trash, the frontman enters the playing field not just to convince Gi-hun of this notion, but to convince himself and further reinforce that belief. And because of this, Lee Byung-hun talked about how a scene like the frontman opening up about his deceased wife was difficult to act in, as he was debating should his character be sharing the story as a strategy, or should he be sharing his story genuinely, or should it just be somewhere in between. I feel like the frontman was acting, obviously, but there were moments where he was lost in the sauce. Like there's little moments where you could tell the humanity was still there. Oilam entered the games to feel something, and in a sense he was becoming human again. Same exact thing is going on with the frontman. In season 1, Gi-hun gives Ali his milk, and then we get the same kind of vibes of naive generosity when the frontman gives his milk to the woman with child. Or this moment where he watches the Coward of the Year completely destroy at another game that I also can't pronounce yet. Look at him. He's absolutely stoked out of his mind. Bro forgot to act. During the hopeless moments in the games, the frontman will look at Gi-hun to see how much he's breaking him, doing a vibe check to see how much Gi-hun stays true to the very loose principles that he possesses. Now, having listened to the interviews with Lee Byung-hun, some of these glances don't look as sinister as the last glance that he gave him. You kind of see the frontman hoping that Gi-hun doesn't break, like he wants Gi-hun to prove him wrong. Gi-hun holds himself to a high standard of not killing people and choosing the better path. But back in season 1, the way he won the games was by other people helping him maintain his innocence.
그러지 마, 아저씨.
And plus, he's stupid. Back in season 1, Gi-hun refers to himself as being slow, overly confident, and a dimwit who lives at his mother's place. And the list just keeps going, honestly. Other than no longer living at his mother's place, he hasn't really changed since then, especially the part about him being overly confident. Gi-hun, who is flying a little bit too close to the sun, wanted to destroy the system, but he didn't understand that the system won't change until the people change. Like the two number ones keep reiterating, the players choose to play the games. The division of the players is what they're banking on to keep the games going, which is why I think this scene back in season 1 is integral to like the overall message of the show. It's when the doctor goes off the rails and does this little quirky thing where he stabs the guard to death and then runs up into the playground room. After hours, mind you. When trying to reason with the doctor, the soldier takes off his mask, takes it off, and then he says this.
나도 너랑 똑같은 사람이야.
Anyway, Gi-hun's plan to overthrow the frontman with the frontman involves him f***ing over all of these other players, all these people who didn't want to play the games. Gi-hun allows the X players to get eliminated by the O players in the least tactical sneak attack that I've ever seen in my entire life, resulting in the destruction of all these people's lives. Everyone's complaining about player 125 because he like inadvertently recreated that moment from Saving Private Ryan, resulting in the death of player 380. But 380 and the rest of them died because they were outnumbered. Gi-hun's plan put like the boss level X's on reserve. So I know this coward could have saved saved her, but he was outnumbered as well, which is most likely what caused him to become overwhelmed and go into the state where he's completely incapable of doing anything. Much like this guy over here, Gi-hun doesn't change people's minds. Instead, he has them killed. When the frontman confirms that Gi-hun is willing to sacrifice other people for the greater good, you can almost see his disappointment. The frontman is able to justify his doctrine and then revert back into the darkness. The blue, all-encompassing darkness. The flame that was Gi-hun is now extinguished, which is why Gi-hun is caked in this blue light when they're all weaponing up, signifying that he's choosing to switch sides whether he realizes it or not. Gi-hun's plan at the end of season 2 gets foiled, and it kind of reminds me of this moment in season 1. Gi-hun worked in a car part manufacturer that went on strike. After being employed there for almost a decade, management fired a bunch of the employees at once. Gi-hun had a kid on the way and claimed that management ruined the company, but then held the workers responsible. During the protest, his friend was killed in front of him, and the last thing that the friend said to him was this. Same exact thing happens with his other friend after another kind of protest fails.
기훈아,
Seems like a good time to address the question, was the front man actually in danger? Probably not. Elam was the one to stop Fight Night. Like, he was like, hey, cut it out. But he disappeared for like the majority of the situation. And then he reappeared at a really safe height that he probably couldn't get to himself. Almost like he was safely moved there. We also know that Elam was secure after the marble game. We also know that the guards were the ones shooting the players, not automatic turrets. The policy is that as a guard, you never take off your mask to reveal the identity underneath. Otherwise, you're gonna get got real quick. But the guards clearly knew who the frontman was in the games, because this square guard was shaking with nervousness and adrenaline when forced to give access to the frontman's room in order to go through with an attack on the frontman in front of the frontman, who he definitely recognizes as the frontman, who is forcing him to go through with a plan against the frontman. So I'm safely assuming that the guards definitely knew the true identity of player 1, the OG player 1, while he was playing. So in both cases, the guards knew. The guards knew who they were. So yeah, the frontman was operating under the same conditions as the OG number 1, meaning the guards won't be killing him. When it came to the danger that the frontman would experience from the players in situations like the Fight Night, the guards wouldn't have to defend him or anything because, as we've previously witnessed, the frontman can pretty much look after himself. When they were playing the carousel game and the frontman gives up his spot to secure the safety of the group, I feel like he received the same kind of protections that Elam received at the end of the marble game, because we don't know where the heck the frontman went to. We don't know who he partied up with. We don't know. When the frontman started shooting at the guards, I feel like most of them wouldn't be shooting back at the frontman. I personally would, because I would be like, this is where I draw the line. I'm returning fire. But besides the corrupt guards who are just in it for the money by selling people's organs, most of the guards in here seem devoted to the ideology. I'm getting the impression that most of them are willing to die for the games, in the same kind of way that the salesman was able to give up his life in the game that he and Gi-hun were playing. But then again, those are just my thoughts.